It's the ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs. Stick around, because today we're going to be talking about the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy.
If it's a fast ship. You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon? Should I have? It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs. She's fast enough for you, old man.
Hey Star Wars fans, welcome back to another video from All Things Star Wars Considered. I'm your host Doug, and today we're going to be talking about, yes, you guessed it, the Millennium Falcon. Now, on this channel, we've talked a lot about figures. We've done a lot of reviews on playsets and the like, but we've really yet to touch upon vehicles. And I thought, what better place to start than with the Millennium Falcon? And before we get into it, much to the chagrin of some of the vintage fans, no, we're not going to be talking about the Kenner Falcon. I'm sorry. Despite it being a great ship, we are going to talk about the Legacy Falcon that came out in '08 and then was later released in the vintage collection as a Toys R Us exclusive sometime around 2010, I'm thinking. Well, it's a great ship. The original Falcon, as cool as it was put out in '79, but it was outdated. It was small in scale, and it just didn't hold up to the standards of toy making, in this current modern era. So what happened is Hasbro used the original mold and they put the Falcon back out in '95. They tried to revamp it somewhat. It didn't work. And then a few years later, around maybe 2000, they re-released it a second time. This time, they upgraded a lot of stuff, but the original mold was still in place, so the size was still, it was still very grossly undersized. Then Hasbro finally said, it is time to scrap this old model, this old mold, this old tooling, and lo and behold, they put out the Legacy Falcon in '08. Now, to say that this ship is, amazing would be an understatement. It is truly one of the coolest and largest vehicles that Hasbro has put out to date. There is one that's a little bit bigger, and we'll get into that eventually down the road. But for right now, today, we're going to talk about the Legacy Collection Millennium Falcon that was issued in 2008. Stick around. Okay, now here's the box. Now I'm not going to go too crazy because I've filmed a lot of segments for this ship and it's extensive, so I don't want to labor too much on the front of the box, even though it is pretty cool. Now I did state that I had the Legacy Falcon, and I do. This is just the box that I picked up from my cousin. So I do have the Legacy Falcon. They're all the one and the same anyways. If you got the Smuggler's Run from a few years back, that's the same as well. So let's just get into it. You obviously have the Luke and Leia Hildebrandt, the Star Wars logo with the double racetrack piping around the outer edge of the box. You have the Toys R Us exclusive logo, because this was a Toys R Us exclusive. It does say it's over 2.5 feet long, and electronic light, sound, and phrases. The cool image on the front is very nostalgic of the original Falcon back in the day. And let's get to the contents. Assembly required. Contents: vehicle, removable panels to access interior, electronic lights and sound, secret smuggling compartments, auto opening boarding ramp, pivoting gunner station, firing missiles, missile firing mini fighter, training probe, light up Dejarik table, labels, and instructions. And includes 2 figures. Wow, you didn't see that too often. That was obviously Han Solo right here, who's in the cockpit, and Chewbacca, who's in the interior of the ship, along with C-3PO and R2-D2, and then Luke Skywalker. So there you have it. Let's get to the bottom of the box. Yes, that's right. You heard me right. The bottom of the box, because here's the top, or the front, and then you come to the bottom, obviously where it would sit on the shelf, and here it is. Now this box is obviously pretty road rashed, as you can see by both ends of the panels. I apologize for that. I don't understand why they didn't put this image on the top of the box, where it would have been a lot better to see, and then it wouldn't have gotten so trashed, because obviously this has got a lot of shelfware. So you have secret smuggling compartment to hide from stormtroopers. That pays homage to the original Falcon. Pivoting gunner station to target Imperial fighters. Obviously another nod to the original Falcon. Illuminated Dejarik table with hollow monsters and a training probe for lightsaber practice. We did have a hollow chess table and a training remote, not to this level though. When we get into the actual features of the ship, you'll see how much more advanced they are now. And here's the real cool thing. Opening light up cockpit can fit up to 4 figures. Now the original Falcon barely held 2, so the fact that you can get 4 figures in this ship, in this cockpit, is really cool. So yeah, let's move on to the back of the box, which is pretty much in essence the front of the box. So let's get to it. Okay, and here's the back of the box. Pretty much just like the front. The only difference is that it's an artist rendering of the front of the box, which is pretty common with Kenner back in the day. They'd show you the toy on the front and then an artist rendering of it on the back. So it's pretty much the same. You got the Star Wars logo. The only difference here is you've got the Vintage Collection emblem at the top part of the box, but pretty much all the same. Your contents includes 2 figures and then basically the same image with the same kid. Again, I don't want to labor too much. I just want to get to the toy because there's a lot to go over. So stick around. The review of the Millennium Falcon is coming up next.
You don't have to do this to impress me.
Sir, the possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Now, never let it be said that I don't come prepared. Look at this sheet. Now, I tried to shoot this a couple of days ago, and it didn't quite work out because I hadn't touched this ship in several years and couldn't quite figure out how to get everything to work correctly. So what I've done is I've gone on the Hasbro site and kind of downloaded the instructions, and I want to try to give a more comprehensive and thorough review of this ship. So we're going to start right over here with the cockpit area. Now, let's do a little bit of a zoom so we can actually kind of see a little bit more in depth. Now, again, I'm trying to be proactive instead of reactive. And what I've done is initially I just had Han and Chewie in there. That's the 2 figures that came with the ship. I had them in, and then I tried to bring in Obi-Wan and Luke after the fact, and I just couldn't get them in there. And it was just making a mess of the video. So I go, why do I have to do that? I can just put them in there to start off the video. So as you can see, there they are. Now we have a button, and we'll shut this just briefly so you can see the button. There's a button right behind, right where my finger is. And what I've learned, because I learned this the hard way, is that when you tap the button, you get the engine sounds. When you hold the button, you get all the dialogue that kind of centers around the cockpit. So let's open this up, and we're going to kind of just quickly press the button. Now you hear the engine starting up. You're going to see the light right behind Luke and Obi-Wan's head, and the thing goes into cruise mode, okay? Now, if you actually hold the button, you're going to get all the dialogue from the cockpit.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
Okay?
Chewie, get us out of here!
What's that flashing?
We're losing our deflector shield. Both strap yourselves in. I'm going to make the jump to light speed. You're all clear, kid. Let's blow this thing and go home.
with 1 in a million.
Come on, come on! Switch over. Let's hope we don't have a burnout.
Okay, now as you can see, that's all the dialogue. My first time I shot the video, I couldn't get any of that to work because I didn't remember that you had to hold the button down. I just kept tapping it and the engine just kept firing up. Now, we also have 3 buttons in the rear of the ship. And let's kind of bring the camera up and kind of unzoom so you can kind of see that. And they're right back here. Now that's 6, 7, and 8. Don't ask me why, but that's what they are, 6, 7, and 8. So let's do a zoom. Now, when you hit 6, you just get cannon fire. Now, when you hold 6, you're going to get all the dialogue.
Hold them off. Angle the deflector shields while I charge up the main guns.
Okay, stay sharp.
Don't worry. She'll hold together.
Got him! I got him!
Great, kid! Don't get cocky!
That's it! We did it!
And that's all the dialogue. Now, again, when I shot it the first time, couldn't figure out how to get any of that to work. Now, here's an interesting thing about buttons 7 and 8. When you just press them by themselves without the engine, you're just going to get the engine startup. Now, if you actually have the engine startup, hear it? It's trying to whine. It's starting to start up, right? Now we hit it again. Now it's going to start. Now, once it goes into coast mode, when you hit these buttons, you're going to get hyperspace or boost. Hear that? Now, if you hit this one, you're going to get flyby. So that's pretty neat. When you actually know how to use the buttons, it's actually pretty cool. So, all right, so let's shift our focus now to the center of the ship. Now, we actually have these cannons right here. Now, these cannons actually fire 2 missiles, the 2 lower ones. Now, you have a couple of buttons here that actually, when pressed, deploy the 2 missiles. Now, you have these 2 little blocks here. I call them plinth blocks. Now, you have this switch in the back of the ship where my hand is, and when you slide it, you're going to get firing sounds, right? Now, if you're a little bit more aggressive with the switch, it's going to actually hit these blocks and disengage or, fire the missiles. So let's do that. So you can see that just fired the 2 missiles. Every time you move that switch, it's going to make that firing sound. Okay, so now let's kind of move towards the front part of the ship. Now we have these 3 buttons here, and we have 3 ports where 3 missiles are supposed to be. Now obviously I've lost 2 of the missiles in this room somewhere. They're not lost for good. They're just in a display somewhere. So, but for the purpose of this video, you still are going to be able to see how those deploy. So you just hit these buttons, and there you have it. Now, obviously, all the missiles on this ship can actually go into all the different ports. So I could have taken that missile, and I could have put it in there, and it would have fired. So that's nice. That way, if you're not quite sure what missile goes to what, it doesn't really matter. All right, so now let's bring the camera back up, and we're going to go over to the 4th switch. The 4th switch is a little knob to the side of the ship here, and when you actually turn it, you're going to get the radar dish to kind of swivel. So that's pretty neat. Now, you know what we're going to do? We're going to actually pause the video, and I'm going to open this thing up so you can see the interior of the ship. Okay, I apologize for that. I just want this to be comprehensive and thorough, and I don't want to be struggling. So I needed to figure out how to get these panels off. So you get this little rib here, and then you pop, and that comes off. And then that allows for you to just grab this one, and this one just kind of pops off as well. So now you have the interior of the ship. Now let's open up the cockpit here. Let's pull Solo out, and you have a nice little area for Solo to sit in this little chair at the navigation computer console, right? And he can kind of see how things are going while they chart the course to Alderaan, right? Now let's bring in Chewie. Now Chewie wants to get some R&R, so we're going to bring in Chewie here, and Chewie is going to be playing some space chess with our good buddy Goldenrod. I got the fully articulated C-3PO, so he can actually sit at that chess table, and or Dejarik. And then we're going to bring in R2, And R2 kind of sits right there. Now it's a little crowded, but all in all, not too bad. Now you have 4, 5, and 2, 3, and 4, I believe. Yes, 2, 3, and 4, or 3, 4, and 5. Yes, I know it's crazy. You got button 3, which is here, button 5, which is here, and then 4 is this thing that actually spins the dish and the training remote. So we can bring in our trusty Luke Skywalker figure, and we got a couple foot pegs in here, and that helps because he doesn't always stand in there, right? And then we can kind of pull Obi-Wan out of the cockpit, and we can have Obi-Wan training Luke Skywalker in the ways of the Force. So now let's use some of these buttons to have a little bit of fun. So now let's hit button 3. Now, if you hold it, you're going to get the entire dialogue in one shot. If you tap the button, you're going to get it one at a time. So let's actually just kind of press and hold the button to get all that dialogue.
It's not wise to upset a Wookiee.
I suggest a new strategy, R2. Let the Wookiee win.
Now, pretty cool. Now, let's get over to here. Now, here's one cool thing that I figured out when I was shooting this video. I never knew this. When you have this knob here, right? When you just press it, it actually gives you the whole lightsaber clash thing. Watch. Then you turn this, and you can have him battle it out. Pretty cool. And then if you short press this, you're going to get the dialogue from Luke and Ben. But you have to short press it.
With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight? You see? You can do it. You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Okay, so there you have it. So let's move on to the second half of this ship. Okay, now if you recall, the original Falcon put out by Kenner in 1979 only had the one play area. This ship actually has 2. And now over here you have this medical area, this medical bay. And you have a bed, and you can actually have Luke lying there as he's recovering after his fateful battle with Darth Vader, in which he lost his hand. Now, if you had one of the, I think it was a Saga Luke Skywalker Bespin fatigues, actually came with a removable hand, and it actually came with a tourniquet that would kind of pop onto the stump of his arm, and then had this hose, and that hose would actually plug in to this this bed. So really cool little feature. It also came in a 4-pack put out in the Legacy collection called Training Aboard the Falcon, or something to that effect. Now, we also have this little closet over here, and a little tricky to kind of always operate because I don't have kid hands. Adults aren't supposed to be using this. But it's just a little closet, good for storage. Nothing earth-shattering there, but still an added feature to the ship. Now, we talk about paying homage to the original 79 Falcon. And obviously, we need to create some storage compartments. Han uses them for smuggling. He never thought he'd be smuggling himself. But you have this little switch here, and you kind of just push on it, and this panel comes right off. And we could add in, let's just throw in some figures. We got R2-D2 here, right? And let's put in C-3PO. We can pop him in there. And then we can kind of replace this panel. And they are hiding from the Imperials. So another neat little feature for this ship. Now let's move on to the gunner station. Okay, and here's the gunner station. Now, obviously, what would the Millennium Falcon be without this particular feature? Because it allows you to recreate the scene at the end of A New Hope when Han Solo and Luke Skywalker take out those 4 TIE fighters after they escape the Death Star. Now, that switch that I mentioned at the beginning of the segment, you slide that switch right to left and left to right in order to recreate that scene. Now, I think it's a little obnoxious, so I'm going to actually shut the the feature off so that you can actually just show him sliding back and forth in his gunner chair. Now, it's very difficult to get him in there, but when you do, it looks fantastic. You got those clear viewports at the top and bottom of the ship, and when you shine light through there, it gives you a really cool effect. Now, let's move on to the boarding ramp, which is one of my favorite features of this ship. Check it out. Okay, now I mentioned about this loading ramp. It's really cool. There's a button on the side, and when you press it, the ramp lowers and you get lighting. Watch this cool effect. Now, that is fantastic. Just watch it again. Cool. Love it. Okay, now a ship this size would have an escape pod. Now, no Falcon to this point has had it. It wasn't large enough. This one is big enough that they can actually include an escape pod. And there's more to the escape pod than just having it. There's a little bay that it sits in, and there's all kinds of sound effects when you actually open and close the port. So let's open it. And there you have it. And here it is. And hear it? That's it actually, thrusting away from the ship. It's got some cannons on the side. It's got a little cockpit for one figure. Nothing special here, but just a cool little thing. A couple of little engines. It's actually got a cannon on the bottom. Does it have a cannon on the bottom? Yeah, because there's a button here. I must have shot the missile. But in any event, you can pop this right back in, and when it does, watch. And then you shut this. So really, really cool. So, nothing earth-shattering there, but just a nice added feature and an added bonus for this ship. Okay, we're just about done with this review. And I couldn't let this review end without showing you the rear engines. And you have a button back here, and when you engage it, they start to power up. And then watch, it's going to struggle. And then you're going to hit this button again, and then it goes into kind of cruise mode and stays solid. Now, this looks awesome, and it looks really cool in the dark. I probably should have figured out how to set that shot up with it being in the dark, but no matter. In any event, that's the final piece of the puzzle. But when we return, we're going to be showing this ship off, and it is going to be bustling with action figures like I do in all of my videos lately, so stick around for that. Okay, and here's your finished display. Now, obviously, this Millennium Falcon offers a variety of play areas and also a variety of play features. So you can set up multiple shots within the confines of the ship. As such, we have this pivotal scene from the end of The Empire Strikes Back, in which Lando Calrissian and Chewbacca pilot and co-pilot the Millennium Falcon. Now, a concerned Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia look on. Obviously, the concern is because the Falcon is not jumping into hyperspace, despite Lando's claims that his people fixed it. They did in fact fix it. Unfortunately, the Empire deactivated it. Just as things look bleak, R2-D2 emerges on the scene and reactivates the hyperdrive, allowing the ship to jump into hyperspace just before the Empire can ensnare them with the tractor beam. Now, let's move into the interior of the ship. Now, that scene I just spoke of with R2 reactivating the hyperdrive can be recreated using the button on the back of the Falcon. Let's hit that button.
R2, come back at once. You don't know how to fix the hyperdrive. You did it!
Now that's cool. I love that. So, let's make our way to the rear of the ship. The medical area in which Princess Leia consoles Luke Skywalker after he lost his hand in the battle with Vader. Now, obviously, a lot more was lost during that battle. Luke's innocence, as Vader dropped a whole bunch of heavy news on him. Luke is now struggling to kind of wrap his head around the news that Vader gave him. We all know what that news was. All right, now let's make our way around to another portion of the ship. Now we are going to return to A New Hope, in which Chewbacca, R2-D2, and C-3PO engage in a friendly game of Dejarik, space chess. Now, let's hit this button to kind of see how that all goes.
It's not wise to upset a Wookiee.
I suggest a new strategy, R2. Let the Wookiee win.
Now, obviously, Han looks on. He listens in. He's charting the course for Alderaan. Obviously, they will never get there, as obviously the Empire has destroyed the planet. Now, let's get to Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker. Now, obviously, Obi-Wan is instructing his new student in the ways of the Force. He throws a training remote at Luke, and has Luke start to battle it with his trusty lightsaber. Now let's hit the button to see how that goes. And then what?
With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
You see? You can do it.
That is great. Now let's make our way around the ship for the final shot. And as we get around, we can see that now we can actually have a scene depicted on the outside of the ship in which Lando Calrissian and Han Solo meet for the first time in years. Obviously, Lando plays a little bit of a cat and mouse game with Han Solo because he needs to kind of subdue him and kind of lull him into a false sense of security so that the Empire can spring their trap on the rebels. Let's make our way around. Now you can see that obviously Han, Leia, Chewbacca, and C-3PO are now having this conversation with Lando, Lobot, and his Bespin guards. I hope you enjoyed this display, and we will see you on the next video. Well, I hope you enjoyed the review and display of the Legacy Falcon from 2008. I picked that up at, it was either Walmart or Target back in 08. I paid $159.99, and my cousin came over afterwards, saw the ship, and was blown away and wanted it. By then, it had kind of come and gone, so he was hot and heavy on trying to track that thing down. Luckily, he ended up finding the Toys R Us Vintage Collection exclusive on the market. He had to pay another $40 for it, but he was happy to get it because at that point, they were like few and far between, and you really couldn't track those down unless it was on, eBay, and prices were much higher than $200. So he was happy to pay that $200. He's not a big vintage collection guy. He didn't really care about the packaging per se. So him and I swapped out boxes. I gave him my legacy box. He gave me the vintage collection box, and I was happy to get it because I'm more about the display and that nostalgia. So it worked for me, it worked for him, and we both walked away happy. So, yeah, I don't foresee Hasbro kind of revisiting that. They might re-release it, different packaging, but there's really no reason to improve upon that ship unless they started from the ground up and made it a HasLab. But there's really no reason to. I mean, the scaling is pretty decent on it. I mean, it'll never be to scale, and if you actually created a scale Falcon, it would probably be the size of this room. Maybe not that big, but pretty close. But what they did is, for today's standards, is amazing. So I can't complain at all. Thrilled with this Falcon. Obviously, you could hear that throughout my review of it. So we're going to start to wrap things up. But wanted to remind everybody that if they haven't done so, ask you to hit the subscribe button so I can continue to bring you that valuable Star Wars content we've all come to know and love. I would really like to thank everybody for the continued support of the channel as well. I've got a bunch of new subscribers. It seems like they keep coming fast and furious, and for that I'm appreciative. If you like what you saw, if you enjoyed it, give the video a like. I always say that helps the channel as well. If you have a question, a comment, some input, please leave it in the comments section, and you know that I will get back to each and every one of you. That's one of my favorite parts of the channel, is just kind of interacting with the fans, because that's what the channel's all about. It's not just me putting out some sterile video and you guys watching it and just giving it a like. I like the interaction, going back and forth. Even if you kind of say, you're crazy. Like one guy in my last video told me I was crazy. Oh no, I was nuts. Because that I didn't like the carbon freezing chamber. And I appreciate that. You know what? Maybe I am nuts for not liking it. But in any event, still, I love the interaction. So keep it up. Going to start to wrap things up. Want to remind everybody, have a great day. Thank everybody for watching. And we will see you on the next video. And as always, may the force be with you.
Time. She's the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy.